that. And it all begins with plants. Swedenborg says that plants, out where you see them in the world, also in the pages of the Old and New Testaments, they are symbols for things in the mind. That that ideas, worldviews, those kind of things, the sort of building blocks of consciousness grow like plants. And if you take plants and you have them a bunch together, organized, you get yourself a garden, which is an image of the mind, and in the mind in various stages. Swedenborg wrote this in Heaven and Hell. He said, a garden, in general terms, corresponds, so there's that word, I told you, it's correspondences, man, to heaven in respect to intelligence and wisdom, which is why heaven is called the garden of God. So the garden of God is the human mind, all these little plant-like things in the human mind, organized in the right way. That's the mindset of heaven. That's the garden of God. So we're talking about gardens. Their meaning in relation to the human psyche, and from the human psyche to how we go and affect the rest of everyone in the planet. So those are the stakes. And let's take a look now at this very, very famous garden, the Garden of Eden.
And Jehovah God planted a garden in Eden on the east, and put in it the human whom he had formed. And Jehovah God caused to sprout from the ground every tree desirable in appearance and good for food, and the tree of lives in the middle of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a river was going out from Eden to water the garden, and from there it parted and became 4 headwaters. The name of the first is Pishon. It is circling the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium there, and shoham stone. And Jehovah God took the human, and put the human in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and to guard it.
So there you have the beginning of the story. And there is a lot in there, and we're actually even that was truncated, like we took parts out, and even from that piece that we gave you, we're gonna have to pull things. We're gonna have to skip over some things because there's so much material. Swedenborg wrote lots and lots of volumes, 15 volumes in the current translation, just on the first couple books of the Old Testament. So there's a lot in there. But try to think as we look at this stuff that all those details have meanings. We'll try to skim over a few of them as we go. And so we're going to take this story, the garden, the people get put in the garden, there's the snake and the casting out. What does it all mean? And how does it explain why life is like it is today? So first of all, let's take a look at what this garden means. In Secrets of Heaven 99, Swedenborg wrote that for people whose character is heavenly, the inner life is patterned in such a way that the Lord enters into their understanding, reason, and knowledge by way of love and the convictions of love. And since they are free of conflict, they can see that this is so. So Swedenborg described heaven being a state of mind, and the heavenly mindset, or the character of heaven, is part of it is this sensation of connection with God. And he says that people used to have that. This is not, he doesn't say that Adam and Eve are literally the first 2 people on earth, but he says they are representative of what the initial mindset of the human race was. That there was this first state when everything was like you'd think it should be, if there really is God and God is love, that that people would knew the truth about things. Like we get plopped into the middle of existence and we try to figure, is there a God? Is there not a God? What is the purpose of life? How did we get here? Is there a meaning to life? What's going on here? We don't know. And how do you love people? How do you act? Sometimes it seems like you don't know the right way to act. All this stuff is a mystery, but back in the day, you could have direct access to these kind of things. People will have near-death experiences now, and they'll say, I had all this knowledge. I just knew all this stuff. And it used to be like that because of the initial garden state. And he talks there about trees, and there was rivers. In the Bible verse, there was trees, there was rivers, all that kind of stuff. And we have an image of those here. All this stuff, when we show these images, let your mind wander on them, knowing, okay, this is overall the picture of the mind, the ideal mind state. What does all this stuff mean? The trees, we're going to focus on a couple trees in a minute. Rivers have to do with intelligence and wisdom. Water is a correspondence for truth. So what water does in the physical world, waters things, cleans things, gives life. That's what truth does within the mind. And these rivers that are mentioned there are these images of the wisdom of that heavenly mindset. And then it talks about gold and jewels, and that it comes in this pair. The gold is about goodness and love, and the jewels are about truth and wisdom. And that because you have stones meaning truth in general. See how technical this is? This is why it's hard for people to stay interested. But it's coming in this pair because everything is paired, just like we have thoughts and feelings. That same pairing. So the gold has to do with the feelings, and the gems, the precious stones, have to do with the thoughts, and that the things that people have in the heavenly mindset are that valuable. That there's that kind of stuff just sitting on the ground there. So that is what all that stuff symbolizes. But let's start to fill out our cast of characters here. Our first character, and some of these aren't going to seem like characters. I mean, this one is a stretch, but we're going to take a look at what is often called the tree of life or the tree of lives. And so as we take a peek at this, it'll have its own little intro video. Start to get a sense of what does it mean to you, because what it means is what we base the whole story on. So here it is, the tree of life. And every detail of how it's described in the story means something. Even its location means something, and Swedenborg describes it here. Secrets of Heaven, number 105. The tree of lives is love and the faith it leads to. In the middle of the garden means in the will that belongs to the inner self. So we have our first character as this tree of life or tree of lives, and it means love and the things that belong to love. And the fact that it was in the middle of the garden means it's in our will, which would a lot of people now you would say in the heart, or in the central place. What do you care about the most? When the tree of life is in the middle there, you care about love. You care about helping people. You care about serving and connecting. How are other people feeling? That's having the tree of life in the middle. But that wasn't the only tree. It's maybe not even the most famous tree. Of course, there's the other one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So, if the tree of life is having love central to your life, what is this tree of knowledge of good and evil? And Swedenborg gives commentary on it, of course. The tree of knowledge of good and evil symbolizes faith based on evidence from the senses, that is, on secular knowledge. So it's an interesting combo there, that he says it's faith, which you sort of associate that word with something religious based on secular things. So, but really, faith is your ultimate beliefs about life, what you make your decisions based on. And so that is taking what you can see out in the world around you and making that central, rather than having the tree of life at the center, which is love comes first, then everything that I can discern. So we're going to talk a lot more about that in a second, but let's see where the story goes from here.
And Jehovah God commanded the human concerning it, saying, From every tree of the garden you definitely may eat, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you may not eat, because on the day on which you eat from it you will surely die.
So there's pretty dire consequences for chomping the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But just an aside, you don't die when you eat it. I mean, Adam and Eve, spoiler alert, Adam and Eve do eat from that tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they don't die, do they? They keep on going, and they live, and they have children, and all this stuff. So what is that death, and what is eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Secrets of Heaven 126. People are allowed to depend on any perception they receive from the Lord to tell them what is true or good, but not on themselves or the world around them. To do so would be the death of their heavenly quality. So we're talking about an initial mindset, a golden age of the human race, when you could tell, you'd think, if there's really God, a God loves everybody, wants to be everybody's friend, wants to help everybody, why can't I just talk to God? Why can't I hear from God and get good advice on my life and have questions and get answers? There was this initial mindset where you had that. But eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, to say, hey, I don't want to rely on that perception. I want to go pick things out, rationalize away from that. That doesn't lead to you dying. It leads to the death of that initial mindset. It leads to confusion. It leads to what we have now. So that's what that is. I mean, that is the consequence of eating from the knowledge of the tree of good and evil is that we lose this idyllic state where we can tap into the greatest source of knowledge, where everything can immediately be evident.